People talk about like unite the clans and where that all came from. It's just something that came out of whole cloth, or what was the deal? And I always say that it came from right here, the short pilgrimage, because they've managed, I think, better than any other group in the world, the John Gratiente here in France. They've managed to get over themselves. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen organizers, presidents of Notre Dame de Gratiente, just on their knees in front of the statue of Our Lady of the Pillar or in front of the veil, just praying for long periods of time before or after the pilgrimage. And that to me sums up the attitude of this group. So far from trying to compete with everybody, trying to go for numbers and clicks, like they've always had this idea of the social reign of Christ the King, the proclamation of the kingship of Christ, the proclamation of the queenship of Mary. And so I think that's what attracted me the most as a young person, was like when I first came here 35 years ago. They were different because they didn't seem to be competing with anyone, and yet they opened their doors to everyone. So, for example, the Remnant, we started the first U.S. chapter 35 years ago, and we didn't, like everyone else, we didn't hang a Remnant sign on a pole and go walking around. We were the Remnant chapter. That really appealed to me. It's just a bunch of Catholics, mostly young people. They didn't even have things like pro-life groups. It wasn't like, I remember one time this guy brought a big pro-life banner, and the organizers came and said, no, actually, that's not what this is about. It's not about proclaiming or demonstrating some particular cause there's only one cause that matters here, and that's a social proclamation of the kingship of Jesus Christ. That's it. And of course, that filters down to everything else, including life and family and abortion, everything else that we all fight for. So yeah, not political in any way. They don't want it that way. But that's not to say they stay out of politics, because they don't. They're very interested in stealing everybody, like convincing people to like live your faith, remember the promises of your baptism, then go to war, then get into politics, then go into the business world or whatever, and fight. But from that perspective, you know. So yeah, I get real frustrated with people back home who they like taking it to clans or kind of mock it. I don't know why that took on like it did. It's taken on all over the world, especially here in Europe. There's so many guys from Croatia or wherever that walk up, unite the clans, and they really get it. And that's just a shortcut for saying, we're the church militant on earth, and we need to stay together. We're soldiers of Jesus Christ. We have confirmation for what? To make us soldiers of Jesus Christ. So we shouldn't be two things. We shouldn't be fighting with each other, and we shouldn't be competing with each other all the time to the point where it's ridiculous. So we've really benefited, I think, from the example set by the French. Just pull back and just do the right thing. If people want to criticize us or attack us for this or that position, it doesn't matter. Who cares? And part of the reason for that is because on this road to Chartres, this 70-mile walk, is where you see like the joy of Christendom, the joy of Christianity, the joy of practicing your faith and just trying the best you possibly can to fulfill the reason that you're on this earth. And the idea of somebody like ridiculing another pilgrim or something, or making fun of what they say or what they do or their positions is unthinkable. So you get to see this Christendom thing in microcosm on the road to Chartres. That was the huge thing, I think, that transformed my life. And it's transformed so many people. I'll give you an example. Probably, I don't know when it was, 32 years ago. I lose track of exactly which year. We picked up this guy. He was a reporter, newspaper guy from New York Times, doing whatever, some kind of European religion beat or whatever it was. And he jumped in our chapter. He wasn't Catholic, obviously. He was Jewish, and walked with us. He was just curious. He happened upon the pilgrimage. He's like, oh, this is crazy. I might as well get a few extra days in France and walk on this pilgrimage. So he walked with us. Good-natured guy, having fun the whole time. But I could see, like, by day 2, he was done. He was completely wiped out. And so he said, there's no way I'm going to finish this thing. This is crazy. I'm not even Catholic. I'm gone. So I would find good, carry on. Pentecost Monday comes after the pilgrimage is over, and here this guy comes. He's like limping, and smiling. And I said, what are you doing here? I thought you left. He said, I almost did. He said, I was done. I was completely spent. I was exhausted, blisters, the whole bit. And as I'm looking for a van to get off the pilgrimage, I see these little girls from Riamon, these little scout girls, So there's one particular one who's fallen behind her friend. Just this tiny little girl, the little blue, outfit on, the little skirt, the little yellow thing, the little beret, and she's got a stick. And you could see on one knee, he said, it was all bandaged up. She had been to the medic's tent, She's limping and dragging herself along. And he says, as he approached me, he wasn't thinking much. He was just looking for his way off the pilgrimage. And he says, as he approached, she just turns around as if she just sensed he was there. She turns around, huge smile on her face. She looks at him. She sees he's hurting. And she says, "Courage, monsieur," you know, smiled big and kept going. And this Jewish guy said that if he ever saw the face of Jesus Christ in anyone, let's remember he's Jewish, right?
Mm.
If I ever saw the face of Jesus Christ in anyone on this earth, it was in the little Scoot from Remo, this little girl. So that's the kind of thing that even as a young guy, really struck me. The example that this thing sets, it's something very different. It's very different than the blogosphere. It's very different than anything else that people do as far as trying to find a good way to plug into Catholic action. Changing a lot of lives. I interviewed a guy just this week, Muslim guy. Can't think of his name. Michael, same name as mine. Michael was born in Iraq, Muslim all his life, and began to question that religion, of course, and following his the grace of God or whatever it was. He said he came to realize, looking at the charity of true, authentic Christians, Catholics, that there was something very real in that religion that he wasn't getting in his own. Now he's walking the Chartres pilgrimage, and this Muslim guy born in Iraq, whose name is Michael, is going to be a priest. He's going to do the seminary now. There's a whole chapter of Muslim people here, who converted to Christianity. That's happening all the time on this pilgrimage. So I don't know. I look back. It's bittersweet. I mean, it's really weird looking back on all the people, because if you walk something, you do something for 35 years, especially the pilgrimage, it's exactly the same. It looks the same. It sounds the same. You're walking the same path. You're out in the country, walking through fields and woods and all that. And they're singing the same songs, Je vous salue Marie, the Chartres Sona, they're saying everything. So it sounds the same. It puts you back there. But you realize a lot of the people that you walked with a long time ago are no longer there. They've died. I mean, they're passed on or whatever. 35 years is a long time. So the older people who I walked with, Michael Davies walked with me. I brought him years and years ago. And I think about the impact that it had on him. And this was interesting because he was kind of skeptical. Like, can this thing really work? This French pilgrimage going to... And I invited him to join our chapter, which he did. I can't remember what the year was, 96 or 7, I guess. And he was skeptical. Like, I don't know if this is for real. Is it really going to last? Is it going to be compromised? Something happened to him that happened to me, So he goes to the pilgrimage. He goes to the Mass on Monday. He sees, at that time, there were only about 15,000. Again, the average age, 20 years old. And he loses it. He's like, I can't see that this is going to survive, but just absolutely the most powerful thing you'd ever seen. And until you experience that yourself, it's hard to understand why. I've seen plenty of grown men crying after the Mass in Chartres. Experienced men of the world. It happened to me. I'll tell you why, because I'm losing my voice, by the way. But it happened to me. I grew up traditional Catholic. And so my father did a masterful job, I thought, of trying to recreate in his Catholic home the Christendom thing, the reign of Christ the King in his home. But everything was in chaos. This is the 70s and into the 80s as I was growing up. And so he sent a reporter over here to do the Chartres pilgrimage, and this was in 1990. And then my mother and father were like, you want to come and let's start a pilgrimage? It was so popular that the report that we did was so popular. At that time, there was no U.S. chapter. Want to come? Let's go to France on a pilgrimage. And I was thinking, that sounds like Chaucer. What are you talking about? Like they still do pilgrimages in France? Well, there really weren't that many. Now they're all over the place, thanks to the Chartres, the Notre Dame de Chrétienté pilgrimage. Lots of Auriesville, lots of places took off afterwards. 2 Hearts or whatever, 3 Hearts, I guess it is. So I said, sure, let's give it a try. So I went on this pilgrimage. And I'll tell you the truth, I hated it. I was like, what are we doing? We're walking for 12 hours a day. There are a lot of scouts here, very militant French scouts, really tough guys, your kids. And I thought, well, is this like a scouting weekend? What are we doing here? I don't understand, And then as over the course of the 3 days, I was learning a little bit more, and I was kind of trying to be patient. But by the morning of day 3, I was so done, and I just wanted to get on a helicopter and have somebody take me out of France forever. And then gradually it starts sinking in. You get closer to Chartres, you see the spires of Chartres, which looks like your mother reaching out her arms, the two steeples. It always reminded me of that. This beautiful reliquary of Our Lady, this playhouse of Our Lady, just sits on the horizon and is just like beckoning everybody to come. And you begin to feel something, you don't really quite know why. And then you start, listening, reflecting on what this is like. Well, this is France. This is France where the eldest daughter of the church has forgotten the promises of her baptism pretty much completely, except for the traditional movement. She's gone into chaos, secularism, really, really a messed up country right now. And you think, well, it must be so interesting for the Joan of Arc, because Joan of Arc has walked this. She walked this pilgrimage. King Louis the Ninth walked this pilgrimage. A lot of famous saints and kings walked it. They must be looking down from heaven on this thing, going, it's still going in France. There's still this line of young pilgrims who haven't given up on the faith, and you begin to feel like you're part of something really big. That even probably, if we can kind of ascribe our human emotions to what goes on in eternal beatitude, even heaven must be so jubilant to see that it's going to make it. There are so many people still hanging on and remembering not only the promises of their baptism, but the example of the martyrs, and being willing to suffer and break up their feet and be part of something very, very difficult, which is like a small little white martyrdom for a weekend, where it's very hard, very difficult. And so you start, well, this is kind of neat. There's something happening. There's something coming back. And then you get to the Cathedral of Chartres and you walk through the city and the bells are ringing and everything is completely shut down in this town, all because of a pilgrimage that goes back 1,000 years, way more than 1,000 years. This is a pilgrimage. This is the little route from Paris to Chartres, was what the pilgrims would have done on their way either to Jerusalem, the very ambitious one, or if they couldn't go to Jerusalem, maybe they'd go starting in Paris, go through Chartres, and then go out to Santiago de Compostela. But because Chartres is this magnificent, basically a reliquary to probably the second or third most important relic in Christendom, namely Our Lady's veil, the veil that Our Lady wore when the angel Gabriel appeared to her, and that's probably wrapped may have wrapped our Lord at the time of the Nativity. Hugely important relic. So you come to this town, you realize all these years, for thousands and thousands of years, people have come, our forefathers have come here for a reason. If they couldn't go to Santiago, they went to Chartres. Crusaders who were going to go off and fight for the holy places went to Chartres. Why? Because they wanted to touch their tunic to the veil of Our Lady and put themselves under her patronage. And so when you start seeing all these, you know what I mean? Sometimes like the way the faith is presented can be sort of cheesy and it doesn't really connect with, especially young men, too much. But what this pilgrimage did was it really put us all back in this sort of crusading, militant, soldier of Christ type of attitude towards the Catholic faith. So I'm just like, the day before I was ready to quit, leave. I didn't know what I was doing in France. Monday finds me as I sit there, especially during the Creed, for whatever reason, because I remember thinking along the road to Chartres, in those days, there was no other U.S. chapter. So we didn't hear any other English. There were some Brits up ahead. You might see them at lunch or something. Otherwise, it was constantly French, constantly German, whatever. And there was a language barrier. It didn't matter, but there was. So I lived through that 3 days of language barrier. And then I get to the Mass at Notre Dame de Chartres, and it is packed out. In those days, they didn't even have pews. They didn't have chairs. They just crammed 8,000 people into that. You were just like tied up in a little knot, It was really brutal, to tell you the truth. But then I always think that at unam sanctam catholicam and apostolicam ecclesiam, one holy Catholic and apostolic church, and to hear, 8,000 people singing that at the top of their lungs, well, it just changes you,
So what I hear is that Our Lady has been uniting the clans for.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
This is her pilgrimage. Nobody can stop it. And especially, I guess, for someone who grew up more or less traditionalist after the council, after the new Mass came in, trying to figure it out what it meant to be Catholic, because it wasn't manifested at the parish level anymore. At those days, there wasn't even Latin Masses at all, So to come here and you see this, oh, okay, this is what they stole from us. Not a bunch of pious platitudes, not a bunch of silliness, but an extremely masculine, from my point of view as a man, masculine, powerful thing that was capable of building mighty Christendom and fighting wars and winning at Lepanto. All of that came rushing back. Not back, I guess that's the wrong way of putting it. All that became extremely real, and I got it. Oh, I see, Now I see.
That might be the single best explanation for why we have to keep it.
Yeah. Especially
Because
right.
That's the spirit that needs to keep.
That's the spirit. And there's so many things that manifest themselves almost naturally along the road to Chartres. So think about it. You have 20,000 kids. The average age is 20 years old. That means you got a lot of young, 15, 16-year-old kids. Usually those are kind of hard to control. You're going to have trouble bringing that many kids, 2 nights camping. Well, here's the interesting thing. Because everybody there has been raised in traditional Catholic families, and they're in the Fraternity of St. Peter, the Society of St. Pius X, wherever they are, Institute of Christ the King, they've been raised in the Catholic homes again. And so they're cut from a different stock. The old stock, it's the same as it was 1,000 years ago, but we don't get to see that very often. So you would think when you have that many young people gathered together for a weekend, you're going to need a lot of security. You're going to need cops. You're going to need people patrolling. And one of the things, I've 35 years of doing it, I have never seen anything even untoward going on the short pilgrimage, let alone somebody needing to call the police to get, So that's another thing that can be seen when you see all the chaos in our cities. And you're like, oh, now I understand why there weren't police back in the Middle Ages. Now I get it.
People had Jesus.
They had the law of God. They had
Yeah,
eternity on their mind. They weren't scrolling through. They were thinking about, well, I'm going to die pretty soon, someday. I'm going to live forever. What state is my soul going to be in when I die?
Moral compass.
Right. They had the moral compass constantly, so you didn't need to regulate every move and put a lot of rules in and cameras in the old days. And so on the Short Pilgrimage, you get to see that. This is amazing. Everybody is just practicing Christian charity. So the Belloc thing, Christ or chaos, we have chaos in the cities. On the Short Pilgrimage for 3 beautiful days, you have this microcosmic peace of Christ on the road to Chartres. And so that's why it's been so contagious. That's why it's just taken off all over the world. Because when you go and you walk this pilgrimage, you really realize what they took away from us. What they stole from us is not only injurious to our souls, it's not only going to hurt our everlasting life, our soul, our immortal souls, but it's also made life on earth hell on earth, what they've done. Because they removed Christ, they removed natural law, they removed the moral authority. And even the Catholic Church in Vatican II is so wishy-washy in what she believes, she's not even talking about morality anymore. She's afraid of her own shadow, the human element. And I firmly believe that's why when people walk this pilgrimage, they go, oh, okay, I totally get it now. I understand what we're fighting for. That's why young people need to come to this thing. Why? I'm so grateful. I never planned on coming back 35 years ago. I'm just going to do it once. And something gets in your soul and you just want to keep doing it forever, because it just reinforces why it is that you get out of bed every day as a Catholic and you want to go to war to defend Holy Mother Church, why it's worth it. Because what they took from us is the pearl of great price, yeah, but it's also a really joyful, wonderful, powerful life, a beautiful life, the simplicity of life that they have torn down to give us the chaos that's just destroying the city, destroying the world right now.
What does it mean to you that the average age on this thing is 20?
What the church, the modern church, the synodal church, cannot wrap their minds around. Young people need to be challenged. They need to be challenged. And I was a pretty young guy when I first came on this thing, and the challenge of walking 12 hours per day, being thirsty, being hot, getting blisters, and really the challenge of that reminds you a little bit of like the way people used to practice Lent. Like at the other end of Lent, there's something glorious or something wonderful. At the other end of the pilgrimage, there's something glorious or something wonderful. Young people, especially, like little kids, they love to do the Lenten practices, right? I think young people really like to do this pilgrimage no matter how they're challenged. They want to do it. It makes them feel alive. It makes them feel like they're growing up and like they're maturing, as Christians. And at the other end is this glorious kind of almost like a pilgrimage of life, like life itself. Life's a struggle. And I think we all innately know that you need to be. This is why the Protestant model is ridiculous. You just accept Jesus as your Savior and you're going to be not. Everybody knows that life's all about a test. It's all about the hardship. It's all about the narrow road to heaven, the sweat of your brow to get there. And I think young people are really, really quite, because they're used to being, if they're being raised in a decent family who understands that, they're used to rules. And rules mean you got to follow the rules, and there's a satisfaction that comes to following the rules. This is what the Catholic Church has gotten away from. She doesn't even talk about the 10 Commandments anymore. She talks about climate change. So I think that the Chartres pilgrimage also stands as a reprimand to the modern Vatican, to the Church of Vatican II. No, don't cater, don't kiss up to little kids. Don't tell them to lead you. That's absurd. The little children need to be led by those who are handing the faith down to them. A guy like my age, I got it from my father. I'm handing it down to my kids. They're not supposed to be leading yet, but they will be leaders. But they want to accept the challenge. Like, can you handle this beautiful thing, the faith? Can you take it now? I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to entrust it to you. Can you take it and hand it down? Can I count on you to hand it down to your kids? Because it's up to me to make sure that I impress upon you. You need to do that. You need to pass it down to future generations, especially right now, this burgeoning new world order and all this godlessness going on. So I think that's why the pilgrimage so appeals to young people. And believe me, people say, well, what are they doing? Is it world youth? No, it's not world youth. It's extremely serious. In fact, we could put some video up from the adoration of the Blessed Sacrament the night before, 2 nights before it ended, second night. And that was 11 o'clock at night. We all went down there, as we do every year. And there's just this huge field, and there's a lit up tent, Blessed Sacrament exposed. These kids have been killing themselves. We saw so many ambulances taking kids out of here. People are getting put on stretchers and taken out to the medics. Some of them, like 500, had to go to a hospital. It was a really, really difficult year. Everybody was blistered. Everybody was, having trouble, including obviously me. And yet there they were, 11 o'clock at night. You could just see this sea of silhouettes, the backs of heads, every single head, every single person I could see, at least 1,000 kids after that long walk. They're young. They're 16, 18, 20 maybe, kneeling bolt upright on this nasty, gravelly kind of, it wasn't a really smooth golf course or something. It was pretty rough ground. And just bolt up, utter silence, not a sound through the whole field. Nobody told them they had to be there. They wanted to be there. And I think that's the problem with the church, the modern church, and the human element. They're really undercutting young people by making it easy for them and trying to be, come up with, goofy music and stuff to attract them. What attracts them is the challenge of being a soldier of Christ.
And that's so obviously faith. There's nothing else that makes you do that, but you believe that's Christ.
You would be insane after that walk to be kneeling there in the darkness, now, banging up your knees, if you didn't think that was our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Of course, it's faith.
It's beautiful.
This is why I get so frustrated. People, not too many, but there's some critics who still, they haven't done the pilgrimage, and so they try to kind of disparage it. Oh, it could never work. When I've done it for all these years, over 3 decades, and I've seen the effects of it, and I've seen the fruits of it, and I've seen the faith. I'm just like, why would anybody be in any sense critical of this? This is amazing. This isn't having to do with the big polemical debates that we see at YouTube or anything. This is just simply going back to your knees, going back on pilgrimage, getting down to what really matters, and even feeling the ground, and smelling the grass and getting bit by the bugs and doing all this stuff to try to get out to this place, this beautiful place, where you're in time, and the 3 days of the pilgrimage are extremely difficult. And when you get to the destination of the pilgrimage, and you walk through the doors of Chartres with this glorious Christus Vincit going, and all of a sudden you go from heat outside to cool inside, and you look up, and there's like a different kind of time now. This is like some sort of a strange place where heaven and earth meet, and it's almost like time doesn't really matter anymore, and you have the ability and come on, the supreme desire to say something profound, to God, to Our Lady, to the saints, like I made it, But it's the atmosphere of the cathedral itself that creates that makes you, for 1 hour now, I get to really, really let it set in what an honor it is to be a Catholic and to go into this cathedral and to just sit there and say, I did this, but if you hadn't given me the grace, I wouldn't have been able to make it either. So thank you. It's a deal. But only in that kind of strange epitime, or whatever you want to call it, of the medieval cathedral, do you feel that connection. This is a heaven on earth place set aside for people who are willing to go all the way in what they say they believe.